Shut up and sit down.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Fight for Liberty show. Today, I am interviewing the actual chairman of the Woodchipper Caucus. I misspoke a couple weeks ago when I interviewed Jeremy Todd. He's not the chairman anymore. Today, we have Steve Remus, awesome guy from Arizona, and I'm really excited to have him on. Steve, thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, thanks for the invite.
All right. So yeah, I have to start out with the obvious thing. Why a wood chipper? You know, there's multiple weapons of death. Why a wood chipper specifically?
So that's a great question, and I think honestly, I think the wood chipper in regards to pedophilia has just existed for years. So it just made it just sort of made sense, and it still makes sense. As far as, you know, when you consider the brutality of child predators and what they get away with and what, you know, elite child predators get away with, it really symbolizes a very brutal end to a means, which typically isn't a very libertarian stance. But, you know, I think Jeremy did a good job last week on another podcast explaining really what the issue is and why something like the Woodchipper Caucus, which isn't a formal caucus, you know, it's really just a group of folks who are against child predators or people trying to justify, I don't want to say it's a mental illness, but it is. So yeah.
I'm definitely sympathetic to that cause. I've heard way. It blows my mind, really, how many people I've heard, you know, make excuses, you know, whether it's on, like you mentioned, like the mental health angle, or just they were good enough people. So, you know, it doesn't matter. You know, people that voted for Joe Biden, it's like, oh yeah, we know he touches little girls, but he's Joe Biden. He has dogs, and he was VP for Obama, so it's okay. You know, he's a good guy.
Well, yeah, and the thing with Joe Biden is there's people that have commented on Twitter that they're like, well, if Joe Biden had raped my child, I would still vote for him. And I'm like,
I've seen that a whole bunch of times.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's a very bold statement and a very uneducated one, I think.
I mean, these people are they think that Trump is like literally Hitler, and they don't. But we're not allowed to compare the U.S. to Nazi Germany anymore, right? So we got to be careful on that one.
There's other fascist examples in history we can reference if we need to, right? Yeah. And even then, right, as a libertarian, really anyone that, even Donald Trump, right, he was fairly authoritarian. So we get into this thing in America where everything is fascism, but nobody with any power actually knows what fascism is. So, you know, once you get into the system and once you're a part of the system, you know, they try to convince their constituents that, like, well, I'm fighting the fascists. But when you have two sides of fascism saying they're fighting fascists, I mean, they're the same, right? There's no difference.
Yeah. I mean, that's the key to the duopoly, right? It's the divide and conquer mentality, and it's working very, very well, right? You know, people are falling for it all the time. And, you know, I fell for it for the first 20 years of my life. I know a lot of people that did as well. You know, it's as long as they give you a enemy that you hate more than them, then it's fine. And so, you know, they had that in Donald Trump for a long time. Obama was that for the Republicans. You know, it's like this terrible black dude thinks he knows better than you. He's going to
Yeah,
take your guns and tax you and give you
yeah, and that's
shitty VA quality healthcare.
and that's sort of like the division of America, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
it's not only perpetuated by the political parties, but now, over the last 100 years, they've used the media to spin narratives, right? So, even if you say you're not watching Fox News or CNN, but you're watching their local affiliate,
Mm-hmm.
you're not having objective journalism. So
Yep.
they've infiltrated our school systems. They've infiltrated the media. It's a very daunting task when you're not part of that power system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the only way to combat that is to create our own power system in those ways, right? You know, we have to give support and content to independent journalism. We have to support new decentralized forms of currencies and social medias and video platforms. I know this is going to go on YouTube, but it's also going to go a couple of other places so that I'm not reliant on YouTube, so they can't just decide I said something bad and I'm done. And I think we have a lot of tech people in the party. We
Oh
can
yeah,
build a whole world better than the one that exists currently.
yeah, and that's this is something I brought up with the Arizona State Libertarian Party was, it doesn't matter how good our messaging is, right?
Mm-hmm.
If our messaging can be silenced,
Yep.
right? And that is the task. That is what faces every candidate or every activist is the inability of us to get our message out. So
Mm-hmm.
we definitely have to be into the alternative forms of media,
Yep.
the alternative financing of our messaging,
Mm-hmm.
um, and when I put it that way, really what free country do we live in? Because it's not America, right? It's not land of the free. If we
Right.
have to, if we have to avoid censorship or being shut down or um, you know like John Brennan said, right? They're going to treat us like domestic terrorists.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
with that,
they didn't even shy away from saying that outright. So
yeah, and that's if you've seen the way they've treated anyone else that's been labeled a domestic terrorist or a terrorist, that's a very it's a very scary thing for a lot of us.
yeah. Yeah, I mean they haven't even shied away from like it's the fact that they're going to come after us. I mean, I'm getting censored on Twitter right now. We're watching it. There's a video of me and Reed Coverdale that went up a few months ago that I have to go back and like every. They're about 2 or 3 times a day. I have to go back and re-like this video. And same with Reed, same with all of my friends. Like it fluctuates between like 30 and 60 likes. Um, but it has 7,000 views because we just have to keep going back and liking it. We had Joe Jorgensen's campaign staff getting removed from Facebook meticulously during the campaign. Yeah, there's not it's not a free country when you look at it that way at all.
Yeah, and a lot of people, especially recently when Donald Trump got banned off Twitter, everyone's argument was, well, Twitter's a private company, and they are, uh,
Mm-hmm.
to a point, right? But I honestly believe that when you start as a corporation uh, censoring citizens and there's no repercussion uh, that's available, there's a gray area there where we need to determine what what corporations are allowed to do,
Yeah.
and censoring a populace because of their beliefs is not it, right?
Mhm.
That's the precursor of the government realizing they can also get away with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the only way that you can call Twitter a free or a free market corporation is if there is a free market around it, and there isn't. They don't have competition. They are, especially the fact that they have a contract with the government to have all of these like official government accounts. This is not a private corporation anymore. They get government funding. They have government contracts. They are not a private corporation. You want to talk about random discrimination in like a small business because it's private property. Okay, sure. We can have that fucked up discussion if you want to have it. I don't really want to have it. But Twitter is a whole different conversation.
Yeah. I mean, because you're looking, I mean, in Facebook, Twitter, in America alone is into the hundreds of millions of people, right? So now you're able to really turn and censor really viewpoints that you just don't like, and there's no like review process that's fair. There's
Mhm.
no justification for a lot of things. I think every day I go check my my drop in followers, and it's accounts that have
Right.
just been suspended, and you know, uh, it's hard to determine what exactly was said. That they're like, oh, it's a term of service, right? They violated it. Did they? Right? Did they really do that? Most
No.
cases, no. Like I got banned from Facebook like a year ago, and I have no intention of going back. And I'm pretty sure it's because I shared a Boogaloo related meme. So and that whole movement is a huge misunderstanding by the
Right.
media and corporate America. So, um, and that alone, I wake up every day waiting to be banned off Twitter. So,
Right. I'm definitely starting to get worried, especially seeing this like the drop in likes off of a post like from myself. Like it's my personal account liking the Fight for Liberty account's post. Like I like most of my own posts. It helps with the algorithm. I'm not ashamed to admit that. I don't like the posts that I post from the same account. That's dumb. But I'll like it from other accounts. And yeah, I have to go back. So that I feel like is step one for, they're clearly watching my account in some way, shape, or form. They clearly don't like what I'm saying, even though the video is completely harmless. Like if they watched all of the content that I've put on YouTube, they would have a lot worse clips to choose from to try to ban me than the one that they're censoring right now. So yeah, and I'm definitely terrified that just one day I'm gonna be like, oh, that's gone. That year and a half worth of like trying to build up a following is just not a thing anymore.
yeah, and it's and you try to figure out, like someone in your position, you try to figure out like, well, how does the algorithm sense things? How does, like, is there keywords that trigger certain actions? But
Mhm.
when I look at like the accounts that get suspended from following me, or that I somehow unlike in the middle of the night while I'm sleeping, it's kind of like, okay, well, I know I didn't do that, right? So,
Mhm.
and it seems to be there has to be something in their algorithm that is keyed into certain topics or certain words. I don't think they have people sitting there watching us. That would be
Yeah.
a gross waste of resources
Right.
from a business standpoint. But I mean, you know, would it surprise me if that was true? No, it wouldn't.
Yeah, I am starting to consider the possibility that It has to do with the fact that there's a hashtag attached to most of the posts around this video. That's hashtag end the stupid shit, which was in reference to a kind of liberty unity themed conversation, and like that we should just unify around that message of just like, can we just stop doing can the government just end the stupid shit? Can we just have a functioning government? And I'm not sure if like the use of profanity has something to do with it, but that would be ridiculous. I mean, come on, it's Twitter. We all curse all day long on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, it's the curse words, right? Like, so it's one of those things where a lot of people use them, but for some reason they don't like hearing when other people use them, right? So it's it's another one of those things that falls into the, well, I can do this but you can't, right? And that lines up with big tech and corporate America, and whatever mega church, whatever ideologies have been forced upon Americans for 50, 60, 100 years. It all ties into being a long lasting issue, and it's just a lot easier for, I guess, them to get away with stuff because of technology now. So I mean, our daunting task is literally, I think Jeremy said it in a podcast I was in with him last week, is this is 100-year problem, right? People like Jeremy, Reed, myself, Dave Smith, we're not fixing this in 2 years. Yep. We're not fixing this in 10 years. This is a long haul problem, no matter what happens.
I have some hope for a little bit less than 100 years. I'm definitely a little bit more optimistic than Jeremy, but I agree that it's a long haul kind of problem, and there's a difference between just starting to gain some political traction and actually fixing culture. We can get some people elected even to president. It's still not gonna change everything. So culture, maybe, yeah, I'd agree. 100-year problem for sure. And I think people are just so we're in a false information age. We think that we have access to every form, like anything that we could want to know, we can know, right? That's what we're told.
Yeah.
That's bullshit. It's factually untrue, because there's a whole bunch of stuff that gets censored, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that people don't know. I learned crazy shit on a daily basis that I'm like, why didn't I already know about that? The how long it took me to know about like Ross Ulbright or Julian Assange is ridiculous. Like, I was very, very politically active for years before I knew about either of those two people, and not from lack of doing research and reading stuff. It just wasn't talked about in the circles of liberty that I was in enough, and it's obviously not on the news.
Yeah, well, stuff that would typically paint the government or our country in bad light is we used to live in an era. Well, not us. This was before our time. There was an era.
Right. There was an era.
There was an era, right, before you and I existed, probably, where it was the will of Americans to sort of distrust the government, right? And that's even the media used to distrust the government, and really over the last 100 years, starting in the early 1900s, those two things became aligned, which is not good. Back when they had the huge newspapers, right? Well, whichever huge newspaper endorsed the candidates more, that's who won, because that's who was able to sell that type of government, or that, right? Like,
yeah.
And that's, I really can't stress enough that the media and social media being aligned with the government, or even seemingly one-sided with one side of the government, is not good. Trump's lawyer yesterday, he had a viral video. He went and lambasted both sides of the media, and that's what we need. That we need more people like him to go. Both you folks in the media on the left and the right need to get bent, right? Like, you guys can fuck off, because you guys are screwing stuff up.
Right.
The lack of objectivity in regards to reporting on our government is, I don't want to say it's criminal, but it feels criminal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we can call it criminal. That's accurate. Definitely what they've done to Julian Assange is criminal.
Yeah, look at, and you know what? All those Biden voters that thought Biden would not continue to pursue charges against Assange, like, they're racking up the losses in a very short amount of time. Like, those $2,000 stimulus checks, those aren't coming.
Nope.
Your $1,400 stimulus checks, well, they're going to come, but they're going to come with some fish hooks in them for you to do something, right? Like, and it's,
if you're vaccinated.
Yeah, if you're, who knows what they're going to latch onto that, right? I've seen so many things regarding that I'm just, I'm hopeful that it doesn't happen. I'm like, please, just
right,
just please no, right? There's enough problems as someone who wants to, be a state senator, that, I have enough platform issues on a state level, right? And having to address national platform issues, especially as a libertarian, is not it's not necessarily where I need to spend my time. And yet, the media has such access, and everyone has such access to social media, that I have to carry some sort of, reasoning behind a thing on national policy, any national policy, which is not really how the government, local, state, and federal, was designed. So that's always fun, right? Like,
yeah,
some of them I can carry across the board, right? Like, I'm hella pro gun, right? So that's the big thing. Works great here in Southern Arizona.
Recreational rocket launchers.
There's nothing wrong with rocket launchers, or I think we can buy flamethrowers in Arizona, so that's not a problem for me. It's stuff like this that everyone's freaking out about HR 127. So my local constituents, they're more concerned about the national policy. But one of those things that I talk to them about is, listen, we can keep the federal government and its laws out of our state. And there's a couple states that are working on that. And I'm like, Arizona, most Arizonans, they'll say they're moderate, or they'll say they're conservative, but they lean libertarian. They don't want the federal government running something or doing something in their life. The trick is to just convince them that that's actually, everybody believes it. It's just everybody's stuck in that voting pattern where they're like, oh, this person believes this. No, they don't. They don't believe that because of this. And then, unfortunately, when you go door to door, or you campaign door to door, you don't have time to have 30-minute conversations with every single person. I would never be home. So that's.
When is your race? It's next year, correct?
Yeah. So
22.
The Libertarian primary, where I'm running against myself, is August 4th. And then the general is November 1st, I believe.
Okay.
So
of 22 though, right?
Of 22, yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to.
Yeah. We have some local city council elections this year, so I'm working with the Pima County Libertarian Party we're trying to push a couple candidates forward. And we may be recalling our mayor. So we're trying to get
Ooh.
an independent right now. There's no really big name libertarians that I guess want to expose themselves to there's a big Democrat money machine down here. So um, the independent that ran last time, he's a good guy. Very he's he's very middle of the road. He's not really libertarian, but he's probably the much better option. He's a pro business guy, and
It's usually a little bit better. Yeah.
that's a big thing right now,
Mm-hmm.
with everything that's happened in the last year.
Yeah, I have high hopes for Arizona in 2022.
Yeah,
There.
there's some good stuff happening.
Mhm.
There's some good stuff happening. The Arizona LP. I went to the convention. Maybe some of my friends got elected to the board. So that's a huge win. The Pima County Libertarian Party, our new chair, is amazing and is super active. And that really helps us. At one point, Pima County was one of the most libertarian counties in America. That was in like the mid to late 90s.
Mhm.
So most of those people still live here, and
Right.
most of those people just, I think got discouraged because at some point the Libertarian Party and its national messaging, I think, just upsets people,
Mhm.
and they go, well, I'm an independent now, so. But I'm pretty confident we can bring most of them back.
Yeah. I was having it almost turned into an argument the other day or last night with a friend of mine over should I work for Larry Sharp or Kim Ruff in 2022.
I know
He was
what my,
very mad that I was even like having the conversation or the thought of leaving New York at all. Uh, but I don't know.
I don't know, man. We have the sun year round, so. And Kim's a good candidate. She's very qualified for the position she's
Mhm.
running for.
Yeah, that
So
was one thing that I mentioned to my friend. We don't often get to run a candidate that is highly overqualified for the position they're running for. Like
yeah,
on a resume, paper qualified. You know, my favorite candidates I've worked for, Larry Sharp for governor. Like, if you want to talk about a resume, Andrew Cuomo was more qualified to run New York State than Larry Sharp. Like, that's unfortunately a fact. But with Kim, that's not, we actually get to say this is the person you should vote for because she's going to be by far the best at the job. She knows what the hell she's talking about. And on
yeah,
top of that, she has all of the same awesome ideals that you guys do. She wants to get the federal government out of our business. She wants to make life easier and still make sure that mines are safe. It's a super kind of no-brainer campaign.
yeah. Especially if that power of regulating the state mines is absent of the federal government. It's one of those things where most stuff, if you get the federal government out of deciding what a state is doing, it's going to work better.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Everything is going to be more efficient. You can actually, uh, actually spur job growth or,
Yeah.
wage increase. You can do things a lot better without the federal government.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just because of the lack of red tape, right? We can identify what is a waste of time and resources, and that's essential, especially with our mines here in Arizona. We have a lot of mines that mine all kinds of different minerals, and I don't know really how many federal regulations there are in the mining industry here, but I imagine it's quite a few. I've worked for the federal government before, and
Yeah.
nothing is easy. So
Not typically. Yeah, I think, yeah, like I said, I'm definitely very, very excited about her campaign. I had her on the show a couple of weeks ago. I want to have her back lots and lots of times, and we'll, if life goes well, the goal is to be in Arizona next year.
Cool, man.
Working with
That'll be fun.
all of you guys. Like, not just for her. Like, I want there to be 35 campaigns in Arizona that are all super serious, well funded, and awesome, and I want to be helping all of them.
Yeah, so we're getting, so right now in District 2, the district I'm running in, I'm running for state senator, and we have another former Air Force veteran and libertarian running for state house in District 2. So we have some ability to, you know, consolidate resources in my district, which is a huge benefit. And the best thing I think we have going for us is the way my district is mapped currently is it includes the city of Tucson, but then it also includes a lot of just the land south, all the way down to the border. And in those areas, you have people that I relate to more, the farmers, just people I relate to more. And that's, you can then take the discussion of really city politics out of it. Like I said, most folks in Tucson, they tend to be, I guess, center / a little moderate. They're currently a little blue, but most people I think consider themselves independent. And based off some preliminary surveys, I would say most of them are upset with the federal government, and that's really the message that we're trying to build down here is, hey, wouldn't it be great if, and then you get to pitch scenarios where, like, hey, wouldn't it be crazy if, like, we didn't have this federal regulation, on top of your business or on top of your life.
Yeah.
And a lot of people go, well, and especially right now, and because Arizona has a majority Republican state Senate, it's one of those things where I can sort of force an issue, right? Like, I can force repealing federal gun law. I can be, hey, your district is next to mine, and I know your district is more rural, so your people are a lot like me and my constituents. We like guns. Like, are you, Mr. Republican Senator, going to take the fall and vote against this? No, absolutely not. Right? That's career suicide, and that's part of the angle. The angle with the left is a lot more healthcare related. I'm pitching a direct healthcare, like an increase in direct pay healthcare, which is sort of like forcing the health insurance industry out of Arizona. So there's going to be a lot of money behind the Democrat side on that one. But if I can tell people that, for anywhere from $20 to $70 a month, you can get, general and urgent care from a nurse practitioner or a doctor that has a direct pay network, and you get discounts on prescriptions and x-rays and MRIs and all that stuff that is way cheaper than even you just paying health insurance, right? Like, that's a big deal to a lot of people nowadays. So that's really the best two angles we're working on, along with repealing the state income tax.
I like that one. That's one that you can prove. Like, we have multiple states in the country that don't have it. There is a clear, definitive, like, proof that it can work. We talk about, like, abolishing the IRS. That's a lofty goal. Getting rid of individual state income taxes, that's something, especially in a state like Arizona, where, it is mostly rural, population density is not crazy. You don't have a huge amount of poverty. There's not a huge amount of infrastructure issues currently. Your roads are already okay. You don't need to spend $10 million fixing them like maybe Michigan does.
Yeah, and that's, so we have so the road issue is only a problem, I think, here in Tucson. I think everywhere else has good roads,
Mm-hmm.
but we also have a county administrator that's been making $300,000 a year for 20 years. And I don't know if you know the average salary of a county administrator, but it's like $60,000.
Yeah, it's not usually that.
So yeah,
Damn, I
so
need to move to Tucson.
oh man, it's bad. So they reduced his salary by like $8,000 this year. So it's still like $290,000. And everyone's complaining. So I was like, what are we gonna do about the roads? And I'm like, stop paying that guy $300,000 and we can probably pave some roads, guys. Like it's not a complicated. You just look. I mean, Pima County in general. I think we identified like 30 or 35 individuals who were making over $200,000 a year working for the county.
Wow.
And you're just like, what have they done to deserve this? And then you look around and you go, oh, nothing. Okay, like.
Wait, so why are you running for state senate instead of a county position?
So to me, the more the more important issue for me, right, is being in a position where I can enact laws to keep the federal government or limit the federal government in the state. Our county, Pima County, has a lot of blue money. There is a huge amount of external Democrat donors that sink money even into county races. And we're talking like a race that you might be able to win for like 10 or 15 grand in another county in another state.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at $120,000 to maybe win a county seat here. And that's because you're going up against, you're just going up against people with a lot of money, and a lot of people in other liberal strongholds for some reason have a vested interest in keeping that stranglehold on really our major cities here. It's not like Texas. Major cities are blue. Everywhere else is red, yellow, or independent.
Yep.
So, and
it's like New York.
Yeah, it's and the trick is to just inform people that, you know what, you can be blue, you can be red. The problem is, don't be on the top of your political compass, right? Because that's where you get your actual fascism and like the authoritarianism where,
right,
oh, you don't feel like you can do something now? Well, that's because you voted for someone who wants to regulate your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's been the whole key, to me at least, behind Liberty Unity is, while we're wasting time calling people fascists and communists, actual fascists and communists are taking over the country. It's like that's what's actually happening, and we're over exaggerating and being just ridiculous and calling people names because we want to. I honestly think it's about popularity and like approval and status for a lot of these people. They wanna be the most popular shit poster on Twitter, which is a really sad and pathetic goal to have, in my opinion.
Yeah, I remember I did a call into a radio show, and the libertarian journalist they were interviewing, he said, sometimes we have to come out of the libertarian basement. And it was a reference to how most libertarians seem to have done their activism, right, from their basement or their computer in their home.
Yep.
Right. And it's like we have so many small problems that I think are easily addressed if we just tell people, read all the theory books you want, but have some practical application of how to apply that theory. If you want to read theory and discuss it on Twitter, great. Do that. You'd benefit a candidate more, or you'd benefit the liberty movement more if you were active in the community, right?
Right.
Like it's it's like pulling teeth to get people to come to our Pima County LP meeting, right? I know we have a ton of libertarians here, and it's like, will you please come here and meet us and meet with Kim Ruff is coming down next month. Will you please come here and meet us? And it's like, oh, but then like they'll talk to me all week long on Twitter or all like, and I'm like, just, it's okay. You can wear a mask if you want. You can do whatever you want. Nobody's going to judge you. You know, we're all a very understanding, like you assessed your own risk, right? That's okay.
Yeah.
And people just, I don't know, like everyone seems so scared now, and I'm not.
But this isn't a new problem.
No, it's
right?
not.
Like
No,
this isn't like COVID is just a new excuse for the same old bullshit.
it's a new excuse for people to not be active, right? It's you know, and obviously there was some extra fear mongering done in the last year or so that has people just even more convinced that, oh well, I can't assess my own ability to do something, you know, and that's a great threat to an election cycle. Is we need to be able to, especially as libertarians, we need to be able to meet people face to face. You know, I can try to convince as many people as I can on social media, but it's not as targeted, it's not as genuine, and it's just not as effective. So, you know, if I now have to worry that, or if I now have to take into consideration that, oh well, you know, these people aren't going to want people knocking at their door, right? So now it's coming up with new methods, whether it's, you know, leaving door signs, leaving whatever to refer people to a website or do, you know, it's just not as effective as just being able to have a 5-minute conversation with someone.
Yeah,
and that's the real problem. And now you're talking with, so my primary has to be all libertarian voters, right? So now I have to hope that more of them are like me and aren't as concerned about the last year or as concerned about not being active in the movement, right? So, and that's sort of the toss up. You know, I don't know which type of libertarian I'm going to run into. You know, it's you know, we want everyone to just be a libertarian, but sometimes, you know, that you run into, oh, is this person just a theorist, or is this person just, you know, someone who doesn't want to vote ever, or is this someone who doesn't, you know, and that's the hit or miss thing.
Yeah, it's definitely, the liberty movement is wide and diverse, and I think it is definitely crazy that some people are part of a political party that don't believe in political parties. That won't ever make sense to me. Like, I get that you're a liberty-minded person, but don't join a party if you're gonna be like that. But at the other point, like, I would love for them to join and, you know, change their mind a little bit and realize that voting for you is their best option to get whatever it is that they want out of society. You know, sitting at home and tweeting about the government is never going to fucking accomplish anything, and it's only going to get worse from here.
Yeah, like, and that's what I think a lot of people, maybe they just misunderstand, right? Is, hey, if you get liberty candidates elected, then the things you're complaining about, like, we can start putting a stop to them, right? Like, that's they're not going to get stopped unless we get into the system. And I know a lot of people don't like hearing that, but it's the truth. If you don't get involved in the system is going to fuck you. There's a great movie that I watched a long time ago called SLC Punk, where one of the kids, as he grows older, I think he becomes a lawyer at the end, and I'm pretty sure his quote at the end is like, well, in order to beat the system, you have to be in the system.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, yes, that is literally how this works. We have a little bit, like I mentioned earlier, we have a more daunting task because we're not media darlings. We're not, nobody looks at us and goes, oh my God, you should be so popular because you have these great libertarian ideas. But it doesn't work for us. They look at us and go, you're kind of crazy. I'm like, yeah, a little bit. Right? Yeah. Dude, my dog is hand up in the back. What the fuck?
I mean, lizards definitely have trouble assimilating as humans a little bit, though. So,
well,
I'll give you a little bit of leeway for why you act a bit crazy sometimes.
Well, I mean, that's nobody's ever proven that that accusation. And I'm going to take offense to this too because they started this rumor, and then they go and they say some bullshit like, oh, Joe Biden's a lizard too, and I'm like, how fucking dare you? You do not compare me to somebody like that. Zuckerberg's a lizard. Like, don't fucking do that shit to me. Right?
Yeah,
if anything, they're not lizards, right? They're like mole people, okay? So fuck off with the mole people. Stop comparing me to Mark Zuckerberg and Joe Biden.
Well, Mark Zuckerberg is a robot.
Robot, okay.
I think Joe Biden is just like friends with the evil lizard people.
Oh, is that?
Yeah.
I mean, apparently, I'm like, I may be the lizard king, and I've never been friends with Joe Biden, so I don't know if that's true.
Okay, I could be wrong. I mean, that's just my hypothesis. I heard on good authority from a crazy lady on the streets of Detroit that that the reason that all the Democrats are pedophiles is because they are sacrificing children to the lizard people. So
wow, that's fucking ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty. Yeah.
This woman assured me that she doesn't get her news from mainstream media anymore because she can't trust it. She only trusts YouTube. And as a YouTuber, part of me is like, that's a good thing. Like, maybe people should do that, kind of. But on the other hand, it doesn't fill me with confidence when I hear people say it out loud.
Yeah, I mean, YouTube has great access to a whole bunch of, well, I mean, you can still get a lot of like unfiltered opinion on YouTube, and it's like they'll censor some things, but some conspiracy theories or some conspiracy theorists, I think they leave up just for
shits and giggles.
Yeah, I mean I would, right? Like
for ad revenue.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
Yeah. I mean, I can find all sorts of random shit on YouTube, but then I have friends of mine whose YouTube channels are getting pulled down, or other activists like Ryan Dawson just got his YouTube channel pulled down like 2 weeks ago. I've had a lot of good friends, activists and members of the party, and higher up members of the party with YouTube channels or Instagram accounts or Twitters that have gotten pulled down in the last couple of weeks. So, it's definitely, like we were talking earlier, it's definitely a rising problem that it's hard to draw the line between conspiracy theorist crazy person who's like, I only listen to YouTube, and like actual enlightened liberty loving individual who knows that YouTubers are probably actually the best source of information.
Yeah, and that's that's sort of like I don't want to say we've created some of our own problem over the years, but we have, right?
Mhm.
Like that's why you look at some of our. I mean, there's been some of our past candidates that, and not presidential ones, like I mean, like local libertarians and local races that were just completely like saying batshit insane stuff, and like big media picked up on those people, right? So now you're like, oh,
Mhm.
like, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
our
we've got Aleppo, we've got John McAfee, and we've got Vermin Supreme, and
so
that's
and I like Vermin Supreme. He's a very intelligent guy, right?
Mhm.
Like the issue is the media and the way the media portrays him sometimes,
Yeah.
and the Libertarian Party or libertarians in general don't really do a good job of defending ourselves, right?
Mhm.
We take our lumps. We go, oh man, they said these bad things about us, and we've never been the party of like, oh, we've been aggressed upon. Let's be aggressive back, right? And
Right.
that's sort of what I tell people. I'm like, I don't like being aggressed upon. Uh, I will be aggressive back if it's the
Oh yeah.
media, if it's someone saying something that's vehemently wrong, right? I'm like, oh, well, guess what? I'm like, this is how I interpret the nap. As long as you don't do this to me, right? We're cool. But
Mhm.
now you've done this to me or you've done this to my friends. It's a problem. Um, and there's I don't know how many people really agree with that mindset, but there is a large group of more timid libertarians, and I can understand that, and I respect
Mhm.
that. Um, but I'm not gonna let myself get steamrolled or pushed over. That's just not my
Yeah.
personality.
Yeah. And I think the biggest problem that I see in the libertarian movement right now in regards to this specific conversation is there's kind of a blurring of the definitions between like self-defense or sticking up for yourself and trolling online.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a
There's
huge difference there, and people very commonly mix them up.
yeah, and that's the thing, right? Is I think that all kind of gets tied into like some of our messaging from the national party,
Hmm.
where maybe folks felt that the only way to get the national party to be attentive to a situation was to troll the situation into something more,
Right.
or they felt it needed to be something more. um, and I definitely have my reservations about the national office, right? Like I think that's genuine with any political party.
Hmm.
I have my reservations with, I got, like I said, I mentioned I have a couple friends on the LP board now, and I trust them. But even the state board, there's people who I'm wary of,
Oh
or
yeah.
who have involvement that I'm like I don't know if I like I'm happy to have them participate, but you're also wary about their influence or their background.
It's funny. I'm significantly more confident in the Libertarian National Committee than I am the New York State Committee.
That's that's insane. But I mean, I guess it might be understandable. I mean, I don't know really what the makeup of New York State is like.
Well,
So
it's a much bigger group of people, first of all. So there's a lot more
yeah,
choices to have problems with. The LNC, I have multiple friends on, and used to have friends on, and at least people that I would consider good acquaintances. Like Joseph Bishop Henchman. He's been on the show a few times now. I consider him a good friend. His husband and I used to talk fairly regularly on Facebook. Nick and Valerie Sarwark, I consider good friends. My personal regional rep is awesome, and I've worked on multiple campaigns with him. So I have a lot of, and I also like stay up to date now on what's going on in the LNC, and I have had a few people on the show to kind of talk about what they're doing and what they're working on, and it's very easy to just not see any results and not really be a part of what's going on, and then just think that they're not doing anything. When in reality, it's a slow process, and a lot of these people just got elected in September or what was it, May. So I'm giving a lot of these people a little bit more of a chance. Give it a year or two as they're trying to like really build some stuff and reshape the party. And so far, I think they're doing a good job. The state party is slowly following in its footsteps in a few ways. Slowly, much slower, because there's more people, so it's a problem.
Yeah, we definitely our state convention last month was I don't want to say it was a rude awakening for quite a bit of people, but it was I think a lot of us made the message clear that you need to act now, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a very unique opportunity in the next 2 to 4 years, and those people that don't want to grow the party, which we have some of down here.
Yep.
You're not going to be you're not going to be on the right side of history on this one. We will, and I plan, and I will continue to be a strong voice to the Arizona LP and the Pima County LP to like show no mercy, right? We must grow the party. We must do this.
I like it.
No, this is our opportunity, and there's like if we screw this up, that's it. We may not ever have another moment like this.
Yeah.
And when you put that in the context of really the last year of lockdowns and destroyed businesses and destroyed lives, like that could become commonplace. And it falls on the shoulders of a very small percentage of the population to convince the rest of the population, hey, this isn't working the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
And that's becomes more daunting when you add the media and the government on top of
that. For sure. Yeah, I think there are a lot of people in the party and in the movement that don't want to be doing things. And I think finally, for the most part, most of those people have realized that they're not going to be able to really stop the party from doing things. That's one thing that I will say about the state party. When I joined it in 2018 or 2017, a lot of people in the New York State Party were ex-Republicans who still held the belief that the only successful way for the liberty movement to win was like Rand Paul style infiltrating the Republican Party. And to them, the Libertarian Party was a monthly or bi-monthly meeting where they got to go to a restaurant and drink some beers and eat some food and talk shit about the government. And as much as I love the existence of that once a month thing that I still attend or every month that when I'm here, it's not what the Libertarian Party is. And they tried to hold it back. And just before I joined the party, actually here in New York City, it was starting to take change, really when I got here. So the first, like one of my first meetings was an election. It was my second meeting of the New York City party, was an election where they voted out a very awful chair and voted in somebody new, neither one of which did I know.
Yeah, that's similar to what happened to me. Is I think I went to my first actual county meeting in like September or October, and it's fairly inactive, right? Everyone just kind of sitting around, just having a bitch session. And then I found out that in January they were electing new board members. So in January I stood next to two people who I really support as libertarians, Drew Heaton, who's our county chair now. I don't want to say I made her volunteer to be the chair, but I told her, I leaned over and I was like, you better do this. I'm like, because you need to be the one, right? And then I told Jeremy, who's the vice chair, I told him the same thing. I said, listen, he ran a Libertarian Party in Tennessee, and I said, hey, this is your job. Like you have to do this.
Yeah.
So, and even so, my friend Lauren Snyder at the Arizona LP, we were trying to get a communications committee set up for the state party, and for whatever reason, we didn't get 2/3 of the vote. So we just had her become like the second vice chair instead. So now they're getting a communications committee anyway.
Pass a communications committee?
Listen, it was a very difficult day for me. There's just things that people don't understand, and so I went in.
No, I honestly do understand. I am a member of the New York State Committee, and I've been a part of plenty of meetings where the last full one that I attended, it took us an hour and a half to debate whether or not we should end the meeting, and then we ended it.
I mean, our state convention was so we had some voters show up, and I guess it's because I usually wear a cowboy hat and I usually have a gun on my hip, but people just assume that I'm super friendly. So they come up and they ask me what's going on, and then they observe and they go, I don't like what's happening. And I go, neither do I. I was like, don't worry. I'm trying to fix it. Right. And, Jeremy's I think they have Jeremy Todd. We're trying to get him to be, so we're going to get a communications committee anyway, because Lauren got the vice chair. So
nice.
Take that. Right. Got to figure out how to use the system. So we're going to have, I think the last time we talked, Jeremy Todd and Dave, I don't know if you know Dave the Cat, but Dave the Cat is, they're going to be our communications chair and vice chair for the Arizona LP. So
nice.
That's if I give Jeremy enough time to not be my campaign manager. So we'll see.
He's going to have a busy year too.
He keeps telling me he has all the free time in the world, so he needs to stop doing that.
Yeah, he needs to stop telling me that too. Well, he very often with the caveat of like, I don't know when I'm gonna have to disappear for a couple of days, because congratulations, he's gonna be a father here pretty soon.
Yep.
Any day now, any minute now. I'm waiting on the texts. But yeah, other than that, he's like, and then we'll just be sitting around doing nothing. I was like, oh yeah, that's what you think.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, that's not how that works at all. But
yeah,
so
I'm not a dad, but I at least know a little bit better than that.
Yeah, I mean, he'll notice real quick. He'll notice.
But he's going to be an amazing dad.
He's a good guy. Yeah, I'm really glad he's part of this movement. And there's a lot of people like that I'm glad are in the party or are actively, I guess, more active in the party, right? Or more active in speaking towards liberty, unity, or getting people involved.
Yeah, there are definitely a lot of people that I've met, especially in the last month and a half, that really have me fired up. I mean, honestly, I met Jeremy on Twitter probably 2 months ago, if that. We've been talking for now a very long time. A lot of the people in the Liberty Unity movement, actually, I had never spoken to. Reed and I are friends in real life, but that is almost the extent of the people. My friend Zach Josephs was kind of in a lot of the earlier group chats. And the three of us are friends in real life, but other than that, the entire group chats, the whole movement, like everybody that I talk to on Twitter all day, the majority of who I would consider my friends right now, like when shit goes south in my day and I need some advice, I go into my Twitter DMs, not my phone like texts at this point,
Yeah,
because that's where my friends are, and it's kind of awesome.
yeah. I mean, I think so. We have like a specific like Arizona Valley group chat, and I mean, I think we all exchange phone numbers, but we all just DM each other on Twitter instead because
Hmm.
I mean, I think we're probably on there most of the time anyways. So,
Yeah,
you know, trying to not get into an argument about something. So,
trying is the key word
trying,
there. I'm seeing.
trying. Yeah,
Yeah, that is also one thing, to circle back to, the Libertarian Party building a separate world. One of the issues that I'm trying to solve, or kind of multiple as a whole that we're working on right now, and I said me, but it's a we, and Jeremy's actually involved with this too, is we're trying to get a gilded server up and going, which is kind of like a Slack meets Discord,
yep,
and I'm so far really liking it. But it has the ability to separate out to a large extent, like both Slack and Discord, but actually a little bit more than Slack and Discord, and allow kind of permissions to kind of vary
right,
fairly extensively. And so what I would like to do, and what we're hopefully going to be able to build out, is a server where a lot of both the good and bad conversations that happen on Twitter right now can happen on Gilded, and Twitter can be more for outreach,
right.
so that when we're reaching out to people, they don't go, "Ooh, who's this Steve Remus guy?" And then you're just scrolling, and I don't mean this as a dig at all, but you just scroll and it's like lizard jokes, and then like a
Yeah,
couple of random arguments. It's like it's not exactly the best like first response, and that's a dig at myself too. My entire, if you look down through my tweets and replies right now, it is just a shitstorm of an argument. I've been in like a 2-day argument with Dave Smith and Archie Flower together, mind you. So I
uh,
tweeted out in defense of both of them,
well, that's where you went
and
wrong.
and so they both came back at me, and it's funny. It's a fun conversation. I will have Archie on the show here pretty soon to have this conversation somewhat face to face, because Twitter fucking sucks.
Yeah,
But
I would.
I would really love for those conversations to just completely happen somewhere outside of Twitter, so that when I'm, telling people to follow me on Twitter, it's not what they're seeing.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like, and I'm just a normal person, right? Like,
Hmm.
I think the lizard jokes are hilarious, right?
Oh yeah,
And
for
and
sure.
then and then you also look into like, well, when do I need to stop telling my friends to cut it out for a while, right? Like,
Mhm.
and that's like there's a line somewhere. I don't know where that line is because I think it's hilarious, right? They're
Yeah.
making memes, and I'm like, this is great, like these, but I know that some people don't have the wherewithal in their mental capacity to see that as a joke. Um, there's an individual who's going to remain nameless in the Arizona LP that actually firmly believes in lizard people conspiracies, and this is where this stems is I ended up engaged in a conversation with this individual for like an hour um, at the state convention, and
Oof.
now everyone's convinced that because I was able to talk to him for an hour, I I'm like the
You
lizard
are a
king.
lizard.
So
Okay.
it's when you get the context behind it, it's funny, right?
Hmm.
When you're a random person pulling up my Twitter, you're probably like, oh shit,
Yeah.
like this guy's nuts, right? And that's
See, if you ask me, there's two ways to go about a situation like that. there is the way that a lot of libertarians do it, which is just lols and memes, right?
Right.
Then there's the other way, especially with that context, because it's a great fucking story. You have the lulls and the memes all over the place, and then you get to explain it every time you do a public appearance and say, this is why this is, I don't know how much you followed Tulsi Gabbard's campaign.
So I started following it more after Hillary Clinton threatened her. So
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear her story about the toffee that she had her mom make?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so I'll tell a shortened version of this story. I've heard it so many times. So when Tulsi first got elected to Congress, she had her mom make this like secret recipe toffee that her mom used to make all the time, and she actually had her make a box for each and every single congressman and woman, like 539 or whatever boxes of toffee, and had them delivered to every person in Congress. Just like as a bridge, it contained just with a note that's like, looking forward to working with you. Let me know if you need anything. And then, after they were delivered, was getting people coming up to her, like on the House floor, like high-ranking Republicans coming over to this freshman Democrat, just talking and like having conversations now because she did that. And at the house parties where she was speaking, she would tell the story, and then we'd hand out toffee at the house party, and it was just like a whole roundabout story thing. But that's her attacking her just like cute wholesomeness. You can do a similar thing with the fact that you're hilarious, but also that you're a good communicator and that you can talk to people who might think crazy things. And if we can turn jokes into campaign opportunities, as long as they're not just like standalone jokes, I think.
Yeah, we had some. So I'm gonna go all the way back to the LP Woodchipper Caucus. They originally wanted me to tow a wood chipper up with my Hellcat Challenger to the state convention, and we looked into it, and it was it was a little I think it was a little expensive for just doing a little. Plus, half the people at the state convention would have been confused as hell. So I don't, it would have been great for Twitter, right? Everyone would have been like, "Oh my god, state convention."
They do it to the national convention.
So yeah, so I think that might actually. We'll see. We'll see if I'll have to find like a hardware tool rental place in Reno. So we'll. I'm not going to tow one all the way up from Arizona, but I think I can find someone who's willing to make that happen.
I feel like there's got to be a libertarian that owns a wood chipper.
I mean, I feel like there's got to be somebody that wants in on this idea, right? Just be like, go ahead and bring it on down, to Reno if you're coming, right? We'll maybe we'll set up a whole little booth, and we've had some shirts and stuff made by I think it's Rebel Scum Han on Twitter. She's fairly local to me, so that's naturally who I went to for my business, is to support a local libertarian.
Nice.
But I think maybe the demand might be growing to where we may have to figure out a solution there. But
yeah, I've been toying around with Shopify today. Actually, there might be a launch later on today of new products.
Nice.
So we'll see if that should be a thing.
Yeah, that's always a good thing, is if you can monetize and merchandise yourself, there's no better way to make a living.
Yeah, and especially because all of the things that I do right now don't actually pay. I'm working on 3 campaigns right now as a volunteer, and then a caucus, and then this. None of those things have paychecks attached to them. So, a little bit of income would be fantastic.
Again,
but we're making it work.
Running for office as a candidate isn't really lucrative at the local or state levels. So, I work full time. I still try to live a life in between all this other stuff. So I totally get the time commitment and the, it's like, oh man, somebody's not paying me to do this. And then, then it's also one of those things where people ask me, I've had people ask me why. They're like, well, why would you subject yourself to this? And I'm like, listen, like at this point, like I grew a very thick skin at a very young age. I did the whole, I'm an Iraq war veteran. Veterans are, I think from a joke standpoint, we give each other more bullshit than the average American. And so we just have like this complete desensitization to anything anybody's going to throw at us. So that's kind of the reason why I'm like, nothing really bothers me, right? But really the only thing that bothers me is when people cut me off in traffic, and that's not really a senator problem. That's just people not knowing how to drive. So
yeah. That's gonna just be a problem no matter what you do. So
it doesn't matter where you are.
Yeah, if you get successful enough in politics, that won't bother you anymore because you'll have a driver.
Yeah, see,
so
that's. If we're gonna help me out with any of my trigger points, we might as well. Might as well make me a congressman, because I'm gonna need somebody to start driving here for me in a little bit.
There you go.
And you'll get to drive a Hellcat Challenger, so it's not a bad. It wouldn't be a bad gig. I'm not gonna be riding around in a Suburban or a limo. So
I think I might have to move to Arizona. I'm a driver.
I've let a couple. I let somebody drive my car yesterday, and they were like, "Oh, I can drive this," and I was like, "All right," it's one of those things that we're like, "Can you drive it?" Because like I can floor it and drive it, and there's not a whole lot of people that are gonna be able to do that, but it's fun, right? Like it's something that even. So we're planning a trip for the Arizona LP to Tombstone, and I may have promised a few people that I would let them drive my car. So if you guys come across a video of one of them rolling my car or something, it's whatever. It's just a car. We're all just gonna have fun, right? We're gonna have some fun. A lot of them have never been to Tombstone, and I can't consider them real Arizonans if they've never been to Tombstone. So it's kind of like yeah, I know, man. That's that Wild West history. You got to get your Wild West history lesson in Arizona.
Yeah, I've actually never stepped foot in the state of Arizona, so I really need to correct that. I've flown over it at this point. Finally.
I've been to New York. I've been to New York a few times. When I was stationed at the Pentagon, so I would do like weekend trips, like taking the bus or the train up for the weekend or whatever.
Yeah.
I actually loved New York City, as long as I was like walking to wherever I needed to go. It's got a little sketchy when I was in a taxi a couple times. So
yeah, I almost never take taxis. I've taken maybe a half a dozen taxis in the 5 years that I've lived in New York City. I just don't really fuck with them.
Yeah, I thought, as a tourist, I was like, this has got to be the best option. And when I learned that I could have just spent like an extra 10 minutes walking instead of like waving down a taxi and then going on some carnival thrill ride in the taxi to get like a mile, or a couple blocks away, I was like, wow, I should have just walked. But
yeah, I'm definitely a fan of the subway. And Uber has definitely made things a little bit easier, but for the most part, unless you're going like across boroughs or something, you're much better off in a subway than a car. Time wise, almost always.
Yeah, that's like I've always tried to stay like. I think I've always tried to stay like close, like somewhere in Manhattan, right? Like if I get a hotel, I'm like, I just want to be able to walk to these like 5 things, right? And that was it, right?
Yep.
I mean, I did the whole like, I mean, my first time there, I did the Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island. Found my grandparents' names on the book in Ellis Island, like all that cool touristy shit, right? And second time I went there, it was strictly for Broadway. Like, I was like, I'm like, I like watching musicals. Let's go. I was like, let's go see some legit Broadway
What'd you see?
shit. I saw Cats, obviously, which was amazing. I saw Rent, and then I saw, oh god, there's a third one. It wasn't, might have been Aladdin or Wicked. One of them. I think I tried to go see Wicked, but I had to go see Aladdin instead or something because Wicked was. I think at the time Wicked was crazy big on Broadway, so
yeah,
that's still one I really want to see in New York City. None of this like Broadway in Arizona bullshit. Like I don't buy that. It's a different experience, right? Like it's just a different experience.
Yeah, that's still something that's on my bucket list. I've yet to go to a Broadway show on Broadway.
What?
I've gone to a bunch of off-Broadway stuff here in the city, and upstate, like back home. I had a whole bunch of friends that were in theater, whether it was community theater, or like school theater, or like off-Broadway, like semi-pro in Syracuse. Been to a lot of shows, never any of them actually like Broadway.
Yeah, it was. There's still one, and I think there's still one thing I really want to do, and it's at Feinstein's 54, and it's when they bring some of the Broadway, singers or Broadway performers, right? And it's like you get to have a dinner, and they just perform for you, and I'm like, that's like my top tier bucket list item for New York City, because I'm like, this would be so fucking cool.
That sounds great.
But just like, I mean, my plans originally were to work towards that last year, and then obviously that didn't fucking happen. So
right.
Yeah, and then we'll see. I mean, I got there's other stuff I want to go do in the U.S., but I finally got my passport that I applied for a year ago. So
solid.
Like, I'd like to thank coronavirus for making that take a year. I don't really understand why it took a year, but yeah, I was supposed to.
Well, it's not like you could really use it.
Yeah, I spent, I had all these plans to travel last year, and now I'm just like, man, like what? Like now I'm all like disorganized, and I don't know where I want to go first, and
yeah.
Even then, you still can't really go much places because you have to quarantine for 10 or 14 days if you go anywhere. I've already had coronavirus, so I'm not really sure why I have to quarantine or do any more bullshit, but can't get a straight answer out of anybody.
Because logic doesn't work.
Yeah, I can't get a straight answer out of any of these fucking scientists, so or virologists or health officials or whatever the fuck they want to call them nowadays.
Right. Yeah, I was supposed to be on a plane to London 4 days after the travel restrictions went in place.
Oof.
And that was for work.
Wow.
I was flying into London to spend about 2 weeks with a friend of mine who I was going to be working with. And then from there, we were going to about 20 different cities over the following 7 weeks for her to do a speaking tour and a book tour.
Oh, that'd been cool as shit.
Yes. And I was going to get paid to be her assistant and travel Europe with this beautiful, successful woman who is awesome and I get along very well with. And yeah, that would have been my job, and getting paid more money than I had ever gotten paid in my entire life. And then COVID. fucking COVID.
Yep, there's a lot of stories like that. We had a company I work for now. We had a lot of Romanians in town, so we had to like figure out how to fly them back. Like right as everything was happening, I was like, oh man, like that was a logistical nightmare.
Yikes.
We had a couple of them get stuck in other countries for like 2 weeks, but
Wow.
yeah, it was not a good time. That was, yeah, all that onset of all that lockdown restriction stuff was, it was fast. It was, from my standpoint, it was ill-informed.
Mm-hmm.
I tell people like, hey, Walmart was able to do this. You're telling me a small business couldn't have done certain things on a smaller scale? That's absolute bullshit, right? Like
Right.
that is there was no logical reasoning behind a lot of these processes, and
Mm-hmm.
it's it sucks that all we can do now is kind of look back and go, oh, we should have done this instead. Like, well,
Right.
yeah, you should have done that instead.
Right.
And unfortunately, a lot of the stuff going on now with the economy, the rent, the eviction moratorium, like it's gonna come to a head, right? There's no there's no answer to all this stuff, and I try to think of myself as like really really trying to be a solutions guy, right? Like I won't talk about a problem unless I have a solution. And like this is one of those things where I'm like, I don't really know how to not have this be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And like I don't have a time machine. And that's what I need, right? That's the thing I need to fix this right now is a time machine.
Right. That would be great.
Yeah, like I don't know how to go and tell Congress that $1,400 isn't going to pay anybody's bills for 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of those things that's so common sense and logical that you kind of wonder how these folks do not understand this. Somebody like AOC should understand this because she hasn't always been a congressperson. She was a fucking bartender. She should know, right? She should at least have the common sense to know that in New York, $1,400 isn't gonna fucking go very far.
Yeah.
Well,
in her defense, she was arguing for monthly checks almost the whole time. And that's a lot of people were criticizing her, and in reality, I was with it. I think from the beginning, from April when we first got those $1,200 checks, those should have been monthly. From there to now.
And that's the thing, right? So I was always under the impression that we could have not increased federal unemployment, right, and done something like a temporary UBI, which, I mean, I know that phrase strikes the fear into some hearts of people, but we didn't. I mean, look at the last stimulus. We didn't need hundreds of billions of dollars to go outside of this country, and until people realize that's where all of that money went to, like, it's how do people keep voting for this? How do you keep letting your representative do something that doesn't represent your best interest?
Yeah.
And that's, I don't have a solution for that because I need to rely on the American people to be logical and use common sense. And that seems to be the largest problem we have is
common sense is not very common. That is definitely true.
It's not.
So before we wrap up, I definitely I want to give you a chance to pitch, at least give me elevator pitch on what you're running on, what you're hoping to accomplish with the state senate campaign. Little overview of policy that you're going to be pushing for.
Sure. So running for state senator in District 2 of the beautiful state of Arizona. And the main policy platforms are repealing the state income tax, the absolution of federal gun laws in Arizona, and then the expansion of direct pay healthcare networks to expand healthcare coverage to the middle and lower classes and actually give the people affordable healthcare.
All right.
Those are definitely winning issues. And like I said, direct pay. Listen, like any of you that voted for Medicare for all, you're not going to get it. Direct pay is the best option. I'll talk to anybody about it. Just shoot me a message.
All right. And how can people get involved, help out?
You can. My website's being updated right now, but it's letlibertywin.com. You can email me at team@steveremus.com, or you can hit me up on Twitter since I'm banned on everything else at RemusLP. So hopefully, I guess I'll create a new email address and get back on Facebook, but
Eventually
we'll get there.
All right. Well, Steve, thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure, and I hope to have you back on again before the election starts to ramp up.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds good, man. Really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
Yeah, of course. And I will see you in Arizona next year, for sure.
Absolutely, man. We're going gold next year. We got a mining inspector that likes to mine, so it just makes sense. 2022 is the year of the Libertarian.
Amen. We're gonna get a mine inspector and mine Bitcoin and just go full liberty all at the same time.
When you get her back on, you should ask her if anybody asked her about Bitcoin mining. I think she's got a story about that. So
I will definitely be sure to ask her. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you here next time.
Hey fighters, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos. If you want to learn more or get involved, go to fightforliberty.com/join or reach out to us on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter at Fight for Liberty. If you want to help keep the show going, Patreon and Cash App are the way to do that. We'll catch you back here next time. Until then, keep up the fight.